Mesdames et messieurs, chers actionnaires, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis très heureux de vous accueillir pour notre assemblée générale. Pour la seconde année consécutive, cette assemblée se tiendra à huis clos en raison des mesures sanitaires prescrites dans le cadre de la lutte contre l'épidémie de Covid-19. Cette assemblée se tient donc en dehors de la présence physique des actionnaires ou de tout autre participant, et ce, afin de préserver la santé de tous. Je remercie chaleureusement les actionnaires qui ont voté à distance pour notre assemblée générale. Sont présents aujourd'hui Monsieur Carlalberto Guglielminotti, directeur général de la société, Monsieur Giuseppe Artizzu, directeur exécutif, Madame Ilaria Sterinci, directrice financière du groupe, Madame Cristina Cremonesi, directrice de la communication et des affaires publiques, Madame Chiara Cherry, assistante du directeur général, et Madame Francesca Sorgoni, secrétaire du conseil d'administration. Je vous propose de commencer tout de suite et je demande à Madame Francesca Sorgoni, de vous exposer les formalités légales d'ouverture de cette assemblée. Je vous remercie.
Mesdames et messieurs, chers actionnaires, bonjour. Je vais vous présenter les formalités légales de notre Assemblée générale présidée par M. Carlalberto Guglielminotti, directeur général de la société. L'Assemblée générale mixte a été convoquée ce jour, 25 juin 2021, à huis clos, conformément à l'article 21 de nos statuts et en application de l'ordonnance numéro 2020-321 du 25 mars 2020 portant adaptation des règles et des réunions de délibération des assemblées et organes dirigeants des personnes morales et entités dépourvues des personnalités morales de droit privé en raison de l'épidémie du Covid-19 et du décret numéro 2020-418 du 10 avril 2020, prorogé par le décret numéro 2021-255 du 9 mars 2021. L'avis des réunions et des convocations ont été publiés au bulletin d'annonce légale obligatoire le 28 mars 2021. L'avis des convocations a été publié au journal d'annonce légale du 7 juin 2021 et au bulletin d'annonce légale obligatoire le 7 juin 2021. Les actionnaires nominatifs et les commissaires aux comptes ont été régulièrement convoqués par lettre. S'agissant de la composition du bureau de votre assemblée, en accord avec les dispositions statutaires et légales précisées, les nombres de personnes appelées pour remplir les formalités des scrutateurs sont affichés à l'écran. En accord avec le président et ses scrutateurs, j'assumerai les fonctions de secrétaire du bureau de l'Assemblée générale. Conformément à la loi, l'Assemblée générale mixte est régulièrement constituée lorsque le membre présent et représenté possède au moins, sous première convocation, l'écart des actions ayant le droit de vote, soit 3 191 715 actions. Les actionnaires représentés ou ayant utilisé le vote par correspondance réunissent un nombre total d'actions avec droit de vote supérieur à ce nombre. Je vous invite à prendre connaissance du numéro du quorum définitif et du numéro des actions qui ont été votées. L'Assemblée générale mixte est donc régulièrement constituée et peut valablement se tenir. L'ordre du jour qui a été publié est affiché à l'écran. À vue de ces informations, je déclare l'Assemblée générale ouverte. L'ensemble des documents requis par la réglementation en vigueur ont été déposés sur le bureau de l'Assemblée. En outre, tous les documents préalables ont été mis à disposition des actionnaires dans les délais prescrits, en particulier en moyen du site Internet de la société, dans la rubrique dédiée à la présente Assemblée générale. À la demande du président et avec l'accord du bureau de l'Assemblée, nous dispenserons de la lecture de l'ensemble des rapports préparés en vue de l'Assemblée et qui ont ainsi été mis à votre disposition. Aucun actionnaire n'a fait usage de son droit concernant l'inscription éventuelle des points additionnels à l'ordre du jour ou des projets de résolution. Je vous remercie de votre attention et je passe maintenant la parole à M. Guglielminotti, directeur général de la société, qui vous présentera l'agenda de cette journée.
Merci Francesca. Mesdames et messieurs, chers actionnaires, bonjour et bienvenue à l'Assemblée générale 2021 d'NGPS. Je vous propose de vous donner lecture de l'agenda de la réunion. L'agenda de notre Assemblée se divise en deux parties. Une première partie dédiée à vous, chers investisseurs, pour vous présenter le développement, la stratégie et le business de la société. Pour terminer après avec la présentation des résultats de l'année 2020. La deuxième partie est dédiée à la gouvernance et la société et à la présentation des résultats de vote. Notre journée investisseur commence par une présentation générale de la société, de ses technologies et du management. Ensuite, moi et M. Giuseppe Artizzo, directeur exécutif, nous allons vous illustrer plus en détail les secteurs du stockage d'énergie et de la mobilité électrique. Après cela, une vidéo vous montrera les plantes industrielles du groupe en GPS ainsi que son excellence industrielle. Ensuite, je vous présenterai en détail la technologie et les produits de notre groupe pour passer après la parole à Mme Ilaria Scarinci, directeur financier, qui vous présentera les résultats financiers de l'année 2020. J'aurai ensuite le plaisir de vous illustrer les objectifs ESG que la société a atteints pour passer enfin à la présentation de la nouvelle aventure que notre groupe poursuivra avec les nouvelles actionnaires TCC. Nous passerons ensuite à la nouvelle composition du conseil d'administration à l'issue de cette assemblée générale et l'exposé des travaux des différents comités en 2020 qui seront illustrés par Mme Chiara Cerri, assistant et membre du cabinet du directeur général. Mme Cristina Cremonesi, directeur de la communication, vous illustrera les relations qu'un GPS a avec ses investisseurs et Mme Ilaria Scarinci vous présentera la politique de rémunération. Toutes ces sections seront présentées en langue anglaise. Une transcription de la présentation sera disponible dans les prochains jours dans les sites internet de la société, dans la rubrique dédiée à la présentation des générales. Je vous inviterai par la suite à prendre connaissance du résumé des rapports des commissaires aux comptes via une intervention de nos commissaires aux comptes par une vidéo. Nous procéderons à la séance en questions-réponses et enfin nous communiquerons les résultats de vote des résolutions avant la clôture de cette assemblée générale. Je vous propose maintenant de passer à la présentation du management de la société et des résultats 2020. Let's start with a brief executive summary of where we are. Essentially, we can see here in a very nutshell our equity story. The story of a company which was born from a spin-off of the Politecnico di Torino and Politecnico di Milano and then gradually became a technology player specialized in the integration of storage systems, then batteries, hydrogen and electric vehicles, with renewable sources and the national electrical grids. Born in 2005, then under Chapter 11 in 2013 when I joined and I ran the financial restructuring of the company. In 2015, it was listed in Paris for a 55 million market cap. And in 2018, Engie acquired the company, 60% of the company to be precise, for an enterprise value of more than 100 million. And in 2021, eventually, the Taiwanese conglomerate TCC announced the acquisition of the Engie stake in Engie EPS for an enterprise value worth more than 240 millions. Then, very last step, a few weeks after the announcement of the acquisition by TCC, the closing of the joint venture with Stellantis, Free2Move Solutions, to create a global leader in electric mobility. We see that today we are more than 150 people, 19 nationalities, we have a great knowledge portfolio in terms of patents, more than 130, with more than 1,200 trade secrets, having access to an industrial complex up to 25,000 square meters in engineering centers, while at the same time increasing our solidity in core business, which is energy storage and system integration, ranking as number 4 in storage system integrator in the world, with over 185 megawatts installed in 26 countries and 700 megawatts under development. But most importantly, with 2 full business lines coupling storage and e-mobility, and that even before the Stellantis joint venture achieved great results with more than 50,000 EV charging solutions and 700 vehicle-to-grid fast chargers to be installed at the Mirafiori plant. In both e-mobility and storage, we achieved great results, with iconic products in e-mobility like the Easy Wallbox, which is the only charging solution really plug-and-play with no needs of electrical installation, vehicle-to-grid technologies, and then the recently launched charging as a service solution for Free2Move Solutions, which essentially are subscriptions for home and public charging for a fixed monthly fee. Then in storage, we all know that we are developing some of the world's largest projects worldwide, mainly in the USA, the islands of Guam, almost 300 megawatt hours of solar plus storage in Hawaii and in Massachusetts. Where we are today. Today we are a technology provider and system integrator well positioned towards the storage and e-mobility value chains with rock-solid results which translate the 700 megawatt hours under development, mainly in the United States, to more than $170 million backlog of orders and contracts secured. So essentially tenders awarded through our partners in which we are exclusive technology supplier. We couple such figures that are giving a clear visibility to the 100 million revenue guidance in 2022 with a pipeline that increased to over $1 billion of potential revenues, 80% in stationary storage and 20% in e-mobility, but certainly giving a clear visibility towards our growth ambitions of 400 million revenues in 2025. Now, looking at our evolution from the equity story perspective, we see the first 9-10 years of the company mainly devoted to research as a spin-off of the Politecnico di Torino and Politecnico di Milano, and then the financial restructuring. Then from 2015 to 2017, the first industrial positioning together with the partners. At the time we had Terna, Enel, Edison, Endesa, Toshiba and General Electric, with systems installed in 5 continents from Somaliland, Spain, Chile, Maldives, Australia. And then in parallel raising capital for over 130 million euros to fund the construction of the new industrial play with the IPO at Euronext, with the financial markets, then with the European Investment Bank that believed in our story since the very beginning, and then launching our technology roadmap. While the pipeline at the same time was increasing at that time up to 250 million euros. Then in the most recent period, when ENGIE acquired the company in 2019, we had the great opportunity to scale up our industrial footprint and our positioning in the global markets, achieving great results with iconic tenders awarded all over the world in both sectors, e-mobility and storage. And we are very thankful to ENGIE for that. Essentially, we have increased our scale in terms of projects awarded, but even more importantly, we built the industrial footprint that gives today not only visibility, but also solidity to our further and future scale up. Then from the technological perspective, we clearly see our know-how evolution since the very beginning. You see here from 2005 to 2014, when we were a research center at the university level, the largest system developed was 12 kilowatts, and the integration of energy sources at that time was just solar plus small CHP systems with a power electronics that was almost entirely developed by us, and an energy storage integrated that at that time was essentially hydrogen with small lead-acid batteries. Then we gradually evolved till 2017 to systems with a megawatt size, integrating as an energy source hydropower, but also conventional generation and conventional power plants and onshore winds, increasing dramatically the number of energy storage medias that we were integrated at that time. Therefore, we evolved from hydrogen to lithium titanate, then MNC and Zebra batteries, and also at the same time increasing the power electronics partners we had in order to play into a real open innovation platform to make our systems even more competitive. And then in the last years, we scaled up in terms of size. You clearly see an evolution from 12 kilowatts to 300 megawatt hours, which essentially demonstrates our ability to scale up from the technological perspective of approximately 25,000 times. In terms of size of our systems and eventually integrating electric vehicles within national grids, which is one of the most complex things from the electrical engineering perspective. And also as an energy storage media, EV batteries, transforming car parks made by electric vehicles into the power generation of the future. Well, from the technological perspective, our positioning is still the same. You will remember this slide. We intentionally did not change the graphics behind the description of our technology. That still is the same. We just added the new commodities we now integrate into our technology platform. You will see electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging infrastructure, but essentially we continue as we were doing in 2015 to buy commodities and to manufacture, develop, and patent power and control electronics that today are even more important than 7-8 years ago. While the objective of what we are doing is still the same, the market evolves, but essentially we continue to develop stationary storage systems and e-mobility technologies. In this case, for the 3 original product lines, which are Giga Storage, Industrial Solutions, and e-mobility. Moving on, we see the latest evolution from the corporate perspective, because we decided together with the Stellantis group to join forces to build a unique leader in Europe for e-mobility, coupling the excellence in the automotive industry, coming from the Stellantis group, to our excellence in developing innovative technologies in the energy sector and e-mobility. Then essentially this process started a year ago, in July 2020. And we landed in November 2020 with the signature of the Memorandum of Understanding we announced to the markets. Then in January 2021, we signed the full set of agreement. And after having obtained in March the related government clearances and antitrust green lights, we eventually closed the transaction, and in May 2021 we officially launched the joint venture with Stellantis, which is called Free2Move e-Solutions. In terms of vision and execution goals, we really have to distinguish between where we stand today and what we are targeting for tomorrow. Today, indeed, we are one of the top 5 stationary storage system integrators worldwide, but with a positioning that is built on innovation with an outstanding performance and ability track record, cost leadership, and more importantly, thanks to the backlog of orders and secure projects, we have a high revenue and margin visibility through 2022. So essentially, what we target shall look at the 2023 horizon onwards, and ideally looking towards 2030. That's the reason why we have a clear ambition to target at least 10% of the long-term market share in our market, notably stationary storage, with the vision to become a market-leading EBITDA margin and ROI player, leveraging on competitive advantage and with a manufacturing plane which is a smart manufacturing model. Positioning in the market with an extremely lean structure and with a strong leverage on the current footprint we have in northern Italy, which is based on the well-recognized and world-class level industrial district. Then from the e-mobility perspective, we already deployed more than 50,000 charging systems. We are scaling up together with Stellantis with our transformative joint venture, and certainly we have already sealed an iconic project for the 25 megawatt and 700 vehicle to grid at the Mirafiori plant. But what we're looking for is to transform this business into a business model with almost 80% of recurrent revenues, thanks to the subscription business model, becoming with no doubt the European leader in the e-mobility arena and the leading provider for flexibility service in the European market. And this vision is orchestrated by an exceptional management team. You see clearly here the clusterization of our management team between the leadership team, the execution team, and the corporate team. Team of talents whose average age is 34 years old. And you clearly see the compelling background that all of them have and are coupling with their remarkable commitment to this equity story. I now leave the floor to our General Manager, Mr. Giuseppe Artizzo, who will explain more in detail our energy storage business line.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am delighted to outline in front of this audience our ambitions in the stationary energy storage market. As most of you should be aware by now, we target with our technology offering 2 different segments of the energy storage market. Within our GigaStorage line, we market to vertically integrated utilities, grid operators, and independent power producers, utility-scale energy storage systems designed to help grids cope with the variable production profile of intermittent renewable energy sources. More specifically, within our solar plus storage offering, we designed optimized battery farms to couple with existing or new solar farms, transforming solar production into a reliable power supply, while in our utility-scale storage offering, we develop and market large-scale standalone storage systems designed to deliver world-class grid support services. The 3 years spent within the NG Group have given us the chance to move from projects in the tens of megawatt range to the hundreds of megawatt, which since Ensi's announcement of a potential disposal, which removed the perception of potential conflict by other utilities and independent power producer, we have been proactively and successfully marketing to other energy companies. Within our industrial solutions line, we deliver megawatt-scale decentralized energy storage systems designed to optimize the power supply of industrial users and localized communities in either on-grid or off-grid environment. These are the cutting-edge applications where we built our expertise and made ourselves known in the market. Despite the takeoff in gigastorage volumes, we preserve our leadership in this market segment and will deliver at least 2 more industrial solution projects in the Asia Pacific over the next 12-18 months. Building on the capabilities and credibility achieved over the last 3 years, we have redefined our ambitions following the announced exit from the NG Group, which removes 2 key constraints to our growth: the challenge of serving energy companies while being perceived as part of a leading energy group and therefore a potential competitor, and the limited orientation toward EPC risk within the NG Group. The ambition that we set for ourselves is a 10% market share in the global non-residential storage market, and this excluding mainland China, Japan, and Korea. While our Asian standing will certainly grow joining the TCC group, for the time being, we still conservatively continue to consider the three large Asian economies as protected markets, to the advantage of domestic battery manufacturers. Now, a 10% market share in such a $10 billion plus annual market corresponds to a top 5 position, moving from the current 2-3% share that we estimate for 2022. This is mostly due to our later entry in the US market and the later takeoff of our home European market. Adjust for this, and we are already in such trajectory. In our assessment, only Fluence, and to a lesser extent Wärtsilä, can currently make a stronger positioning statement than NGPS in terms of operational reach and existing project references. But this is a market in which very few companies have the experience, know-how, credentials, and procurement volumes to be a serious contender for a leading global role. The race is open, and together with TCC, we are certainly one of a handful of credible contenders. Our claim to the elite of the global energy storage markets rests on 2 elements. In the short term, the visibility provided by our secure contract portfolio and the quality of our pipeline of projects. And in the medium term, the 4 pillars of our competitive advantage. First, our ability to innovate. We have been first in running off-grid electrical systems on renewable only. First, in retrofitting coal and gas plants with energy storage to increase their flexibility. First, in using hydrogen-based storage to power remote locations. First, in large-scale vehicle-to-grid projects. Innovation is what powers our market recognition. Second, our systems deliver on their promises. Customer loyalty and repeat business is based on flawless execution and quality of aftermarket service. Third, while we do not compete on price, we build our cost leadership through effective system sizing. We do the same things that our competitor with smaller, highly innovative solutions. We have access to the skill set and cost competitiveness of the northern Italian electromechanical district, and we can leverage the procurement synergies that our e-mobility joint venture with Stellantis brings. And last, but certainly not least, our world-class engineering. We focus our engineering resources on our clients' needs to tailor best-fit solutions and build long-term relationships based on know-how and value creation. Thank you, and back to you, Carlalberto.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe, and now let's go on and focus on e-mobility. We can see now a representation of the synergies we are deploying for free-to-move solutions, together with Stellantis. With this joint venture, we are coupling the number 4 global automaker with the number 4 global system integrator for storage systems worldwide. Then we couple a presence, in 130 national markets with our 15 years know-how in energy storage, and we couple their 25% market share presence in Europe with our technology leadership and over thousands of patents and trade secrets. And then eventually coupling their industrial presence in more than 30 countries with our execution with more than 700 megawatt hours of storage systems online and under development. And then we all know that we will become very soon NHOA, new horizons ahead. So just to clarify, question is what free-to-move e-solution does. Essentially, we are active in the whole value chain, so from consultancy and potential assessment of the business case definition to the development, design, manufacturing of the charging infrastructure integrated with solar, storage, and vehicle-to-grid capabilities, combining all of that with a unique IT and digital solutions. Then eventually to cutting-edge installations, operations, maintenance with all additional services that are related to charging packages and all the products that we are going to launch. Then we clearly see how we want to play in this field. Essentially with a pioneering approach, with a restless focus on technology, innovation, and a strong commitment in sustainability thanks to over 50 young talents and more than 170 patents and industrial secrets, just at the e-mobility level. The business line we see here are essentially 3. The first one, we design, develop, and commercialize charging solutions, a full suite of products for residential, business, and public charging. Then the second one is certainly the most pioneering, the charging as a service business line, which is based on the subscription packages that we recently announced and that will be described in a while, and then are devoted to ensure an easy charging journey with a full digital user experience. a sort of one-stop shop for our customers for the whole e-mobility life. Then the third business line is advanced energy services, in which we manage essentially the future of e-mobility, vehicle-to-grid, advanced energy management, circular economy, and therefore second life batteries in order to avoid the yearly recycling need. And overall, if I may, to reduce the impact on our planet. Here we see the charging solutions that are on the market or that would be launched in the coming future. The Easy Wallbox, which is already available, the e-Public, that will be available off the shelf in a few days, and the ePro Wallbox, where deliveries will start by the end of the year, which is the evolution of the Easy Wallbox up to 22 kilowatts and with a 360 degrees connectivity. Finally, the eProfessional, to extend the easy experience of Easy Wallbox also to fleets and commercial industrial operators. We can now focus on fast charging solutions which are obviously another market arena. Let's start with the eFast, which enables fast charging everywhere with no power or interconnection upgrade needs, coupling fast chargers with storage. We have then the eFast Maxi, a DC fast charging solution designed for B2B customers, and then the most important one, the ePost, for which deliveries will start in 2022, and that would be coupled also with other solutions to build essentially microgrids, combining fast charging with storage, also of a larger size, and solar. That is the reason why you see a container in the infographics here. So essentially, it is the only way to transform fast charging into a sustainable business model, because we all know the challenges that fast chargers have when connected to national grids. In other terms, we have the ambition to couple fast charger with mass-scale storage and solar, and ideally also bundling these fast charging microgrids with commercial and industrial operation sites to deliver grid services to the national grids and behind-the-meter services to C&I customers. This is an iconic ambition, and coupling our ability and the ability of Free2move solutions, we might launch very soon an iconic project in this respect, with the aim to electrify massively with fast charging, storage and solar power specific areas of the European landscape. Then we have eFleet, which is a centralized vehicle-to-grid solutions for fleets, and the last one, which is certainly the most iconic from the technological perspective, the ePulse City Way, the only way we see to massively electrify urban areas that cannot be addressed with a lot of fast chargers for obvious challenges at the distribution grid level. And this is the reason why we decided to patent a unique solution that enables fast charging everywhere, with no civil work, nor any utilization of the distribution grid, but exclusively using tramway and trolleybus connections that are already present in all major European cities. Then from the charging as a service perspective, we see the key features of charging packages and the subscriptions we recently launched. You see here, the subscription is a very easy business model. Essentially, you will have a single fixed monthly tariff, all in, and that's the reason why the brand name of such solution is All E. Everything will be embedded into a single app for home and public charging in Europe. Fast charge, slow charge, everywhere, giving to the customer an effortless solution for the whole charging experience at home or in public stations with no additional cost. Then, as I mentioned earlier, it's now time to focus on advanced energy services. It is a bit the future of e-mobility. And we are all well prepared for that. We have the ambition to be future-proof and to develop solutions that are future-proof. Thanks to our V2G technology and with our second life battery play, essentially using the batteries that are coming from the cars into a second life in stationary storage. We extend the period of utilization of such batteries up to 30 years. So essentially, we dramatically postpone the tremendous recycling need we have to face, and we postpone the impact on our planet. And this is a game changer, as in the next 30 years, certainly the recycling technologies will be even more efficient, optimized and sustainable. And we strongly believe that having in mind the circular economy is of essence in order to give and guarantee a future-proof sustainability to all our solutions. And this is the reason why we monitor very closely the market and the technology evolution in battery recycling.
Located in Cosio Valtellino in northern Italy, just 1 hour from the Milan Engineering Center, the EPS industrial plant is at the core of one of the strongest electromechanical districts worldwide since 1899. This is the result of 15 years of know-how developed together with more than 50 strategic Tier 1 and satellite industrial partners, all located within an average of 60 kilometers. The 25,000 square meter industrial complex is powered by 5,000 solar panels for approximately 1.5 megawatt green power, coupled with a 20,000 volt proprietary substation. Its 2.5 gigawatt-hour annual manufacturing capacity is secured with the existing 3,000 square meters indoor and 5,000 square meters outdoor available. An extension to 7,000 square meters indoor has already been planned for a total of 12,000 square meters. The increase in capacity up to 7.5 gigawatt-hour needed by 2030 will be secured within the same 25,000 square meters industrial complex. In its industrial plant, EPS designs, certifies, assembles, tests, and ships turnkey solutions for its 3 product lines: e-mobility, industrial solutions, giga-storage. EPS's unique smart industrial approach guarantees unparalleled production cost competitiveness and scalability thanks to lean manufacturing, 100% agile methodology processes, and more than 30 highly specialized engineers based in Cosio Valtellino and over 50 based in Milan. More importantly, thanks to its strong network in the industrial district, EPS does not employ blue-collar workers directly, as it can count on more than 40 resources coming from its manufacturing and assembly partners. Safety in EPS is an essential value. The plant has always remained open and functioning despite the pandemic crisis, thanks to the anti-COVID protocol plan defined together with the San Rafael Hospital, part of the San Donato Group, which ensures the highest level of safety for EPS employees and their families. Leveraging on the IS EPS proprietary technology platform that allows the vertical integration of renewable and storage sources, the Technical Design Office sets down the R&D projects and defines all the technical specifications for suppliers. By choosing the best components with the fastest delivery, the Technical Design Office plays a major role in EPS's make or buy approach to provide full compliance with the most rigorous technical specifications while mitigating commoditization risks on key battery storage components. Since batteries represent 50 to 85% of the cost basis of an energy storage system, procurement plays a strategic role in EPS Solutions' cost competitiveness by negotiating framework agreements with suppliers and collaborating with production and PMO teams to optimize the budget. Leveraging more than 1,000 proprietary software libraries and advanced simulation environments, the Software and Commissioning Office develops EPS control systems and carries out in-house testing activities, remote support, and unparalleled fast-track commissioning on-site. This office follows integration activities with digital electronic components, such as batteries, and manages factory acceptance tests and site acceptance tests. The Power Conversion System Office designs and develops our proprietary converters hardware and firmware, providing EPS an unparalleled strategic advantage, given the increasing complexity of technical specifications required by grid operators and utilities. This office also assesses the performance of EPS converters and evaluates the prototypes which need to be certified. The plant provides 5 different testing islands using independent supplies and more than 200 certified technical instruments. Moreover, EPS performs inspections and trials directly at industrial partner plants to guarantee the quality of production. EPS implements 33 risk reduction measures in its storage systems and systematically analyzes the battery's performance, aging, life cycle, and safety through in-house tests in collaboration with various research centers. All this allows EPS to manage the whole product and system certification process, as in 2020 with the first worldwide IEC 62933 International Standard Storage System certification. The service team monitors 24/7 the plant performance of all EPS installations by using KWise, a proprietary end-to-end data solution that, thanks to advanced analytics and machine learning AI algorithms, acquires, collects, transfers, and post-processes data coming from connected plants via cyber-secure communication channels. KWise has an automatic alarm dispatcher that allows EPS to readily intervene when needed. Operation and maintenance are led by the Service and Customer Value Management Office, which identifies the customer's needs and manages the operations on site. EPS is not only a leading technology company and system provider in the storage market, but also, since 2017, a provider of a full suite of e-mobility solutions for residential, business, and public charging systems, in collaboration with FCA, now Stellantis. The Cosio Valtellino plant hosts a test line dedicated to charging solutions, which fully exploits the great EPS experience in microgrids and energy storage. The constant and daily interaction between all the three product lines helps to improve overall processes and products. In 2020, with 700 megawatt-hour of projects awarded, the plant was expanded with a new area dedicated to container electrical assembly. In this new plant area, by 2022, EPS will assemble the over 160 containers dedicated to the 4 large utility-scale projects already awarded. Thanks to lean manufacturing processes, 8 containers can be manufactured at the same time. A full suite of dielectric and thermal outbound quality tests is performed on each subsystem, up to 36 kilovolt insulation class, to guarantee the maximum level of safety and reliability of the products. EPS adopts a cutting-edge integrated management system developed with EY, certified by RENA. EPS manages, organizes, and delivers products all over the world. Logistics extends from B to C products, such as Easy Wallbox, now distributed in 19 European states, to containerized plants that we delivered in 26 different countries. The Comoros Archipelago, the Atacama Desert, New Caledonia Islands, and Somalia are some examples of the challenging destinations where EPS ship its containers from Cosio Valtellino. In the Cosio plant, EPS transforms technological disruptions into industrial products that will empower cities with sustainable energy and transform electric vehicles into a valuable source for the electrical grid with a tangible impact for a better future.
Our ideal partner is bold and hungry to make a tangible impact in this world, with the ambition to change it for the better, for real.
I really hope you enjoyed our little tour. And now let's focus on the technology we develop in our facilities and in our engineering centers. We see here all the products we have on offer from the energy storage perspective, so essentially our technology platform translated into products. Our technology platform is divided in 4 families: store, convert and connect, move and control. In energy storage, we have different containerized solutions, and certainly the most iconic one are the energy house high density and the powerhouse high density, which can store up to 6 megawatt-hours of energy into a single 40-feet container, or from the convert and connect perspective, 14 megawatt power into a single container. The solutions are obviously designed for a utility-scale storage or utility-scale solar plus storage, and they are certainly not the solution for a smaller industrial application, where in this case, it is definitely more suitable a hybrid solution that couples batteries and power and control electronics into a single container, storing almost 4 megawatt power and up to 3.5 megawatt hours, which is the case of the hybrid house that you see in the second line. Then you see the integration of other storage technologies and other media in the third layer of this slide, when you can see the hydrogen production house and the hydrogen house power to power, which is our original technology, even if now played with a system integration business model. Well, not anymore as a product manufacturer. I mean, a role that we leave to pure electrolyzers and fuel cell manufacturers, that we specialize in facing the big challenge of cost reduction for these technologies, which is an angle in which we don't want to be in. Essentially, we integrate electrolyzers and fuel cells to use hydrogen to store electricity and therefore converting electricity and water into hydrogen, with the power to gas module and then converting back the stored hydrogen into electricity thanks to the gas to power module, all embedded into a single container. And then eventually the hydrogen house fuel, a system that essentially applies our system integration and energy management capabilities to traditional refueling station electrolyzers. Then we have the convert and connect family. I already mentioned the powerhouse high density with 14 megawatt in one single container, with then smaller solutions in 20-feet containers. So essentially, we decrease the size of the standardized container, decreasing the power to increase modularity and optimization. Then inside such containerized solutions, which are plug and play, we see our proprietary developed converters and inverters. So the CBES high density, up to almost 2 megawatt power, and our CBES 1000 family, with the related COM house for grid connection, that are plug and play as well. And the important aspect here is that we have standardized also the grid connection and interconnection equipment. So in the COM house in the picture, you see the transformers, you see all the equipment which is necessary to integrate an energy storage systems into the national grid, which is an exception in the sector, because typically when you see the marketing materials of all our competitors, they are marketing their full plug-and-play solutions, but excluding from the description, and more importantly from the cost, all grid connection and interconnection steps, which is a material item into the balance of plant and the balance of system of any storage solution. Then we see the Move family, with the products that I just mentioned. You see also special metering built for residential applications, and then in the control family house, you see one of the most important products, which is the Prophet EMS, an iconic energy management system that is coupling artificial intelligence, but also MLP architectures and algorithms in order to optimize energy storage solution. But also any e-mobility integration within the electric grid with a compelling and iconic remote monitoring platform entirely based on AI, which is K-Wise, and the related app we have developed and that our customers can use on a daily basis. Then we see our 2023 technology roadmap. Again, with a single common layer in terms of narrative, which is the seamless link between energy storage and e-mobility. So in each single family, store, convert and connect, move and control, we are developing technologies for both energy storage and at the same time for e-mobility. Then in the store family, we want to pioneer and anticipate in terms of technology roadmap the market evolution. And that's the context in which we are developing and pushing for a new generation of chemistries, leveraging on the partnership with Stellantis. Essentially, the aim is to develop an iconic second life solution and second life battery integration to create aging models based on artificial intelligence and MLIP modeling to optimize usage of such chemistries. Then we will continue the effort in standardization and optimization of our high density and highly competitive and containerized solutions. In the Convert and Connect family, we really see the developments we are making and we are going to develop in the next few years in terms of virtual synchronous machines to maintain at least 5 years of advantage in managing grid forming and advanced predictive functionalities that are key competitiveness drivers for any utility-scale storage solutions in the coming years. And then the last one where you see the label patented is the EBAS MMC development, which is essentially the unique way we patented to integrate into any storage solution the batteries coming from electric vehicles. Essentially, a power electronics, a modular multi-level converter, which would enable the usage of any battery, new or second life, with a full modularity and a perfect balance of system. So essentially, irrespective of the electric vehicle and irrespective of the brand we will use, thanks to this technology, any kind of battery, first or second life, into our storage solution, stepping up our system integration level and our competitiveness. We will not be obliged anymore to use stationary storage traditional batteries, but we will play with any battery, giving also future and extending the lifetime of any battery till the very end, to essentially absorb as much as we can in terms of power and energy before recycling. And I think this is the only way to play sustainably in this new electric and battery-oriented world. Then the 2023 technology roadmap from the MOVE perspective, which is based on products we already mentioned with a clear roadmap we briefly discussed. And you see here the huge importance we are giving to vehicle-to-grid and vehicle-to-X functionalities, so essentially vehicle-to-everything. Vehicle-to-home, vehicle-to-grid, vehicle-to-commercial and industrial, full integration with solar, full integration with batteries. I mean, that's a unique play, really fully vertically integrated that will give to e-mobility a seamless integration with the surrounding environment and a seamless competitiveness and a seamless sustainability in any product we develop. And then eventually, last but not least, the control family with an entirely AI and MLIP-powered Prophet EMS evolution. So essentially the evolution of our energy management system, which is optimizing at the microgrid level any asset, any product, any digital app for our customers. So in a nutshell, the brain behind any solution and any possibility to integrate different power sources into one single hyper-efficient, hyper-optimized, and hyper-sustainable system. Then the last point is a brief description of our current R&D activities and intellectual property structure. You clearly see where our patents and trade secrets are positioned in terms of value chain. You see how we are structured. You see here also the open innovation platform that we have developed over the years with a very solid partners and more importantly with our historical partners, the Politecnico di Milano and Politecnico di Torino, a worldwide recognized excellence in electrical engineering in the last 130 years. From the intellectual property strategy perspective, you see the evolution we had because you will see the majority of our patents in hydrogen while the majority of our trade secrets at the system level are in power electronics. There is a clear rationale behind and there is an historical evolution rationale behind because at the very beginning when we were a startup and mainly focused on hydrogen integration, we were more focused on patenting any innovation we were developing. While over time, this IP strategy changed and we decided to evolve our intellectual property portfolio more towards industrial secrets and trade secrets coupled with few selected innovations which are patented, while continuing the patenting exercise specifically for few e-mobility products and e-mobility innovations. So essentially the reason why we have a stronger exposure towards trade secrets in systems and power electronics, but rather a strong exposure in patents on hydrogen is because of the historical evolution of the company, and this is because of the evolution of the intellectual property strategy management over time. And now I will leave the floor to Mrs. Ilaria Scarinci, our Chief Financial Officer, to present the historical performance and the full year 2020 results.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at our historical performance from a revenue perspective, you know we started from less than 1 million euro in 2015, achieving 10 million euros in 2017, and then doubling in 2019 to more than 20 millions. In 2020, COVID-19 highly impacted our revenue recognition because all the main projects expected to recognize revenues in 2020 were delayed to 2021, 2022. So 2020 revenues, considering the huge impact of COVID-19, are almost irrelevant on our equity story. From the backlog perspective, in the last 3 years, we had a backlog ranging from 25 million euros to 36 million, but the biggest improvement was made in the last 18 months, when we have been awarded with more than 112 million euros projects that, considering the 24 million backlog, sum up to more than 135 million euro, which give us the full visibility depending on the revenue recognition, but certainly over 100 million euros revenues in 2022. Just a small side note on project secured. We do not call it backlog because from an accounting perspective, we consider backlog just when, after the project award, we complete the signature of the full set agreement, APC, and so on, and until the notice to proceed. This is a standard practice in the market for large-scale project financing, but certainly these do not jeopardize the fact that the tender was awarded to EPS partner. EPS is the exclusive technology supplier, and therefore the project is secured. Gross margin decreased from 40% in 2017 to 27% in 2019 to increase to 35% in 2020. This is mainly due to the increase in the size of our project, which is well represented also by the increase in our size and in the pipeline. 2020 margin increased by 8%, but this is an accounting effect due to revenue mix, and frankly, this is not certainly telling of a trend. The EBITDA is lower compared to last year, but again, this is a natural effect of the investment we made in terms of people and industrial footprint, which was just partially offset by the gross margin we generated with the limited revenues we booked, while establishing the industrial footprint needed to execute the over 130 million euros contracts in the next 2 years. You can clearly see the correlation between the news flow and the stock price evolution. The stock price until 2019 was ranging between 9 euro per share and 14 euro per share, then started raising up when we announced the 300 megawatt-hour project in Guam, and it decreased when in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. It then raised again when we announced the largest V2G project in the world, the Easy Wallbox and the NHOA 240 megawatt-hour project. Then it decreased again when ENGIE announced the divestment, and then raised materially when we announced the signing of the MOU with FCA, then with Terna, when we have been awarded with the 70 megawatt fast reserve. Finally, when we announced together with Stellantis the creation of the joint venture Free2Move solution, we have seen another major raise. The following evolution is not really correlated with the news flow. It seems more correlated with speculative plays, but the stock price continued to rise after the announcement of the project ANSA in USA and the disclosure of the new company name for the joint venture with Stellantis. Then, after the announcement of the acquisition by TCC of the 60.5% of ENGIE stake in NGPS at a price of 17.10 euro per share, our share price stabilized slightly above that level. Going to 2020 financial result, you clearly see revenues amounting to 11 million euros, down 35% compared to 2019, mainly as a consequence of global restriction due to COVID-19 and related strong delays in both project execution and project development. Construction schedules were dramatically affected by COVID-19 and related logistic restriction, but nonetheless, we have been able to complete construction of Sundainsurgente Solar Plus Storage project in Mexico, whose test run has been concluded, and achieved the commercial operation of the Registro hydrogen system in Greece, the storage system in Leni, connected to the 400 megawatt thermal power plant in northern Italy, and microgrids in California and Comoros. Despite the decrease in revenues, backlog and contract secures sum up to more than $170 million and 700 megawatt-hour in USA, Europe, and Africa. Backlog is $39 million, up 12% compared to 2019, with over 50 megawatt-hours between California, Massachusetts, Comoro, and Italy. Contracts secured amount to $133 million, thanks to approximately 650 megawatt-hour of projects secured between Guam, New England, and Hawaii. Pipeline increased by 46% in the same period, reaching more than 1 billion thanks to the rapid market acceleration we are experiencing across all geographies, particularly North America, Europe, and Australia. It has to be noted that approximately 50% of the 686 million euro pipeline announced in the full year 2019 results or represented by projects under development with ENGIE in USA and Europe. 1/3 of such projects have been eventually converted in the current backlog and contracts secured. During 2020, NGPS added over 600 million euro in the pipeline, developed almost entirely outside ENGIE Group, and e-mobility representing 21% of the pipeline, thanks to the joint venture with Stellantis. You see here the geographical spread of our capacity online. About our backlog and contract secured, you clearly see the weight of Americas, while in the pipeline this is certainly important, but set off also with the fact that the rising market trend in Australia and Asia Pacific generally. And then you see the rounded weight of our capacity under development between Europe and USA. You see here gross margin plus 8%. As anticipated, this is an accounting effect due to revenue mix, and this is not telling of a trend. The minus 47% in EBITDA is the natural consequence of the revenues drop. Here you see revenues and backlog breakdown. What is interesting is the difference between the revenues and the project backlog in terms of geography spread. Revenues today are essentially concentrated between Europe and Americas, while the backlog is almost entirely concentrated in Americas. On the right part of the slide, you see clearly the rising impact of the e-mobility. Here you see the cost of personnel evolution, plus 21%, that is in line with the total FTE increase. 15% of the new hired people are in e-mobility. The other to support the natural expansion in storage and to manage and to cope with the natural growth that we will have in the next 2 years, thanks to our secure portfolio. Then, operating expenses plus 13%, this is a physiological growth in this specific moment of the company. You see now the breakdown of non-recurring expenses that are decreased on a yearly basis, and also some details of the impairment accounted during the year. Part of the non-recurring expenses will be the family working program. A crucial part of this family working program was the partnership with the San Donato Group, which is the largest medical research center in Italy, with which we redesign entirely our working areas and our offices and industrial plants. As far as the investments are concerned, you clearly see the investments in equipment and services are concentrated in the Move technology family and in the DROS project, so essentially in e-mobility. While from the personal perspective, the investments are more concentrated in control store and convert and connect families, and therefore in energy storage. This is naturally and essentially due to the fact that energy storage, we have invested approximately 50 million euro in the last 5 years, mainly in equipment. Then, in this phase of the R&D investment, we will invest more in personnel. While in e-mobility, we are at the beginning of this curve, and as a result, the investment in equipment is higher than the investment in people. Then, from the net book value evolution perspective, the right part of the slide, it's interesting to note the slightly over 9 million euro in intangible we currently have compared to the number of patents and trade secrets that we have. Then, last point on our net financial position. You see here the evolution.
Thank you, Ilaria, and now let's go on and focus on ESG. We use the wording beyond ESG principles simply because, as you know, ESG is at the core of what we do. You know that our mission is to unlock the global transition towards clean energy and sustainable mobility, shaping a better future for the next generation living in harmony with our planet. But more importantly, our vision is to be a technology global leader and the world's reference to shape a sustainable future through unparalleled innovation, world-class engineering, and flawless execution, providing our customers with net zero power solution and a sustainable cost advantage. I mean, this is the reason why I'm a bit dazed when some of our stakeholders are asking an ESG rating or to try to deep dive traditional ESG due diligence criteria that I mean are more suitable for companies that certainly do not have an ESG at the center stage. In essence, that's the reason why we say beyond ESG. Having said that, in terms of organization, we have, as anticipated, a team of 157 people, including 46 women with different 19 nationalities with an average age of 34. So essentially a team of young talents, 21 of them ranked in a dedicated Academy Talent program. From the integrated management system perspective, we have more than 750 qualified suppliers. Our factory acceptance success rate is essentially 100%, and our non-compliance ratio is essentially 0%. And that is the excellence we have demonstrated in field in 26 countries and for 15 years, thanks to our rock-solid processes and constantly updated integrated management system. But more importantly, thanks to our extraordinary health, safety, and quality teams. And then eventually, from the health and safety perspective, again, we go beyond ESG because, yes, we monitor traditional KPIs like frequency rate, fatal accident rate, severity rate, lost time accident rate, which is 0, obviously. But more importantly, we monitor the timing from any alert, event, or risk identified to the issue of a new procedure. And then you clearly see our compelling rates and the very quick and fast organization we have, ready to react to any problem or any event with a new process, updated procedures to become more and more solid from the industrial perspective with a total focus on the industrial excellence and safety centrality. Again, we go beyond ESG as we do not focus on traditional safety KPIs, but rather on having a faster organization in identifying and preventing risk. But there is another reason why we go beyond ESG. As we decided to publish in full our internal diversity and gender gap analysis. Not just a couple of KPIs to tick the box, but rather to a full set of analysis we made internally under the stimulus and the valuable inputs of our independent board members. We know it is not certainly a market standard and that many companies choose not to, but we actually did it to encourage other companies to disclose them to support a more open dialogue on such very core aspects. We see here the gender distribution by department. I mean, in our company, we are suffering of a structural problem, which is the increasingly low rates of female students in engineering degree programs. We can just note that in Italy, only 20% of engineering students are women. And even worse, 12% of engineers in the UK are female. Not to mention that over the past few years, 40% of women have left the engineering field. This is certainly also driven by old gender stereotypes that historically turned engineering into a traditionally male-dominated field, with a very limited number of women working in our sector. We are obviously better than the market because out of our 157 total employees, 29% are women. And then there is a very simple reason why, because we strongly believe and invest in women. And if we look, and you clearly see that in the right part of the slide, the number of women excluding the industrial operations and the engineering areas of our company, we see a ratio which is impressively higher, 45% of women, and that's because of a 32% presence in business line and 62% in corporate functions. More in detail, and going a bit deeper into the analysis, we see that as of the end of May 2021, more young women have been hired than men. In fact, 52% of the young cluster, 23 to 35, are women, excluding industrial operations and engineering. And in the adult cluster, women represent 36%. And then in the senior one, which is per se a minor cluster in our company, women are 15%. Then the question is, what about the average salary? And what about the potential perfect gender parity we are targeting in terms of remuneration? Figures show very clearly that there is not at all any kind of gender gap. And if it exists, it is slightly better for women because they are paid on average 0.9% more than men. For departments, we see that in corporate functions, women are paid slightly better, in business slightly less, but essentially there is a perfect gender equilibrium in terms of remuneration policies between men and women. Last observation, we clearly see that even in the young talent cluster, women are paid slightly better, plus 8%, compared to a minus 2% in the adult cluster. So, long story short, there is a huge commitment to disrupt the structural gender gap, but certainly we are positioning as a company that is investing and finding women even more than the market availability, with a perfect gender parity in terms of remuneration. And we have the ambition to launch in the context of the new plans that we are targeting, and in the upcoming Capital Markets Day, we would like to launch after closing of the transaction with TCC an even more ambitious program in this respect, in order to disrupt with an iconic problem this gender disparity. In the context of the acquisition by TCC of the 60% Engie stake in NGPS, we clearly declared to the market the management commitment we had as a leadership team towards the new shareholder, and therefore that's the reason why we strongly supported the new equity story joining the TCC group since the very beginning of the Engie disposal process. But more importantly, we feel the responsibility and we feel accountable to secure a sustainable long-term value creation with TCC, which is a responsibility towards our stakeholders, but again, more importantly, towards our people. And then that's the reason why we immediately reshaped our operating model and adapted our organization to boost the potential and the synergies with TCC, while keeping at the same time the synergies with Stellantis that were already identified in Free2Move eSolutions. We see here the new operating model, which is twofold. So we will not anymore have three product lines, Gigastorage, Industrial Solutions, and E-Mobility, but we simplified our operating model into two global business lines, Energy Storage and E-Mobility, to simplify further and increase the focus of our resources. While the global business line Energy Storage is divided and is operating by geographies, Americas, EMEA, and Asia Pacific, with a clear leadership team accountable for, the global business line E-Mobility is operating by brands, which is an obvious choice in the context of the Free2Move solutions that will just start with the Stellantis brand as an immediate starting point, which is the 25% of the European market, but with the clear ambition to go well beyond and potentially distribute our solutions also to other car makers and corporates. You see here a summary of how we see the TCC acquisition as a potential transformational step for our equity story. Because first of all, we found with TCC an ambitious industrial partner with a blue chip standing and a global sustainability play. We talk about a company with more than 1 billion EBITDA, solidly focused on circular economy and sustainability, 10 billion market cap, and headquartered in one of the fastest growing and less COVID impacted economies in the world. Then, as a second layer, TCC is giving us instant access to a world-class supply chain and major untapped markets, which are the Asian markets. You will remember that we never indicated into our addressable markets analysis China, Korea, and Japan for obvious reasons, because it's totally unrealistic without an Asian partner to think of having access for real to this supply chain or even enter into such markets in a serious way. And then as a third layer, we are looking for a worldwide industrial expansion in the sustainability sector. You will remember that TCC already invested more than 1 billion in EMEA and has also a high-profile joint venture in Taiwan with Veolia. They are today the largest lithium-ion cell manufacturer in Taiwan, and they have a long-established battery manufacturing and R&D plant in Canada. And that's the reason why, for our new equity story, we have been inspired by a myth, by a story which is NHOA and the universal deluge, the story of a patriarch chosen to perpetrate the human race. In NHOA's mythology, you will certainly note that several aspects remind us our day-to-day life. Surely, the climate change has arrived to a point in which the humankind is called to change its habits to survive. Science is clearly stating that the only way we have to make our planet sustainable in the long term and a better place for the next generation is through a massive electrification, massive investments in renewables, coupled with storage and massive penetration of electric mobility. As NHOA saved humanity during the universal deluge, we have a role to play in the disruption of the status quo, shaping the future of a next generation living in harmony with our planet. Another reason why we have taken inspiration from NHOA is because NHOA is a myth present in different religious views. In ancient Greece, in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and also in Hinduism. This is to say, NHOA is about the universal message of making a difference in the future of the world. And that's the reason why we decided to take inspiration from NHOA and to launch the new brand that is briefly explained in this video. And this is NHOA, the new brand we will adopt at closing of the ENGIE transaction with TCC. You will note that NHOA stands for New Horizons Ahead, taking us to a potentially enlightened and sustainable future, recalling as said NHOA, the founder of the European humanity. But with an unconventional approach, and this is the reason why the H is placed in a different position. The typography, which is very simple, is characterized by the underline that represents the horizon, and more importantly, the omega, recalling a rising sun, the dawn of a new era. But you will certainly note that the omega is also symbolizing the Ohm's law, electrical resistance, which is a bit the root of this company. Then, very last point is a sort of anticipation. Waiting for all the needed government's approval to close the block trade between ENGIE and TCC, we are heavily working on a new industrial plan in order to set a clear, compelling and ambitious business plan in the context of the new equity story. And we will announce it very soon to the markets because a shareholder change of this magnitude requires a new business plan, a new guidance, new KPIs, new objectives, new commitment and new responsibility from the management team. A real master plan. And that's the reason why we intend to launch the master plan, disclosing the objectives, the targets, and then the plan in the coming days and weeks as soon as the deal will be closed. What I can anticipate right now is that the name of this new plan will be 10X Master Plan. So this is just an anticipation and I hope to communicate very soon and to disclose to the markets this master plan in the Equity Capital Markets Day that will follow the closing of the deal. Thank you very much. I will now leave the floor to Ms. Chiara Cerri, a member of my staff, that will take us through our next points of the agenda, opening the section focused on governance and voting results.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This year, the terms of office of 3 directors, Mr. Carlalberto Guglielminotti, Mr. Giuseppe Artizzu, and Mrs. Alice Tagger, are coming to an end. In addition, an independent director, Mr. Massimo Prels Oltramonti, resigned from his duties on February 2021, and the Board of Directors has decided for the co-optation of Mrs. Veronica Vecchi as new independent board member of the company. The ratification of the co-optation of Mrs. Veronica Vecchi is proposed for your vote. I also inform you that the directors decided to propose to your vote the renewal of the board mandate of Mr. Carlalberto Guglielminotti, Mr. Giuseppe Artizzu, and Mrs. Alice Tagger as members of the board of directors. Following this meeting, and subject to the adoption of the resolutions, your board of directors will be composed by these board members. The board of directors will be then composed of 10 members, 4 different nationalities, 3 independent directors, 4 women, 1 executive director, and 4 directors representing the majority shareholders of the company. This composition reflects the diversity and complementarity of profiles and experiences, skills and cultures sought by the board. It is important to underline that this composition will be revised after the closing of the transaction with the new majority shareholder of the company, TCC. Concerning the committees assisting the Board of Directors, ENGIE EPS has 2 specialized committees, the Audit Committee and the Remuneration and Nomination Committee. During 2020, the Audit Committee has worked on the financial accounts of the company, reviewed the half-year and full-year results. The Remuneration and Nomination Committee, in its 4 meetings during 2020, has reviewed the compensation package for the corporate officers of the company, worked on the proposal of attendance fees and their allocation, and managed the process regarding the Board of Directors' self-assessment. The Board of Directors is assisted by 2 other committees. The Independence Committee has been established with the purpose of reviewing significant agreements between NGPS and the NG Group entities. The Ad Hoc Committee has been established in the context of the selling by NG of its 60% stake in NGPS. Its main role is to select and recommend to the board an independent expert to be appointed to supervise the work of the independent expert and to draft the reasoned opinion to be submitted to the board. The board of directors appointed as its independent expert A2EF, Associé en Évaluation et Expertise Financière. The ad hoc committee is also supported by the financial advisor Lazar and by Clearly Gottlieb as legal advisor. We will pass now to the presentation of the new statutory auditor. The Board of Directors, acknowledging the expiration of the mandate of RBB Business Advisors as principal statutory auditor of the company, has decided to propose to your vote the renewal of the mandate to RBB Business Advisors for a term of 6 years, expiring at the end of the shareholders' meeting to be held in 2027. This information is subject to your approval. I will now leave the floor to Dr. Cristina Cremonesi, Head of Communication and Investor Relations, to present you the NGPS Investor Relations with its shareholders and investors during 2020.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As evidence of the extreme attention that NGPS puts on investor relations, in 2020 the company had more than 100 one-to-one and group meetings with investors and analysts. More specifically, we met 69 investor and financial players, and the management had several communications with 14 of them. We took also part in 2 investor conferences, the Société Générale Nice Conference in May and the UBS Renewable and Energy Transition Virtual Conference in September. And we also attended one roadshow organized by Société Générale in November 2020. To keep the market updated with our activities, in 2020 we published more than 20 press releases, almost one every 2 weeks. And we had also 3 investor conference calls. In March, on 2019 annual results and 2020 outlook update, in September on half-year 2020 financial and business update, and in November on the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with FCA that led to the creation of the e-mobility joint venture Free2Move e-Solutions. In 2020, we also had our first digital corporate event, the 2020 Annual General Meeting. Then in 2021, we started to have our conference investor calls via video call, and we will continue to have these more interactive meetings in the future. With the occasion, let me remind you of the interactive Q&A session for investors that will take place right after the closing of this meeting. Please visit our corporate website for the connection details. I now leave the floor to Mrs. Ilaria Scarinci, our Chief Financial Officer, who will present you the resolution pertaining to the remuneration of corporate officers.
Following the rules of the PACT law and in accordance with the Ordinance number 2019-1234 dated 27 November 2019 on the compensation of corporate officers of listed companies, supplemented by the Decree 2019-1235 dated 27 November 2019, transposing the Shareholders' Right Directive, you will be invited to vote the compensation policy applicable to corporate officers, the Chairman, the Board of Directors, the CEO, and the members of the Board of Directors from 2021 financial year, which are detailed in paragraph 13.1 of the 2020 Universal Registration Document. Also, in addition to the individual ex post vote on the remuneration granted to the CEO and to the General Manager individually, you will also be invited to vote on overall compensation and benefits of all kinds granted for the financial year 2020 overall ex post vote to the corporate officers. The details of compensation are laid out in paragraph 13.2 of the 2020 Universal Registration Document as amended by the update of the corporate governance reports published on 7 May 2021. Let me now present the compensation of the Chief Executive Officer. CEO compensation is essentially made by two components. The first one is the short-term cash-based compensation. The second, the medium-long-term compensation based on SARs, stock appreciation right, and as we will see in the next slide, a retention plan. For the short-term components of the CEO compensation, Mr. Guglielminotti received in 2020 a total compensation equal to €318,000, composed of €195,000 fixed salary, €25,000 benefits, essentially a company car and health insurance, and €97,500 variable compensation. Variable compensation is based for 60% on quantitative objectives directly correlated with companies' performance indicators to accelerate the conversion of qualified pipeline into backlog, to maximize the value of the e-mobility activities, and to maximize the top line. Those indicators weight respectively 25%, 15%, and 20%. And for 40% on the qualitative objectives based on the definition of a new technology roadmap and achievement of the full management commitment to support the strategy review. The Board of Directors considered all objectives met and on 24 March 2021 decided to increase the percentage of variable compensation on fixed compensation from 35% to 50%, with an increase of 43% with respect to the variable compensation approved by the AGM 2020. Looking at the ex-ante vote on 2021 compensation, CEO and General Manager compensation have to be considered in the context of the announcement of ENGIE on 19 April 2021 of the sale to Taiwan Cement Corporation of the 60.48% stake in NGPS, which is expected to close during the third quarter 2021. Following this announcement, the board examined the proposal of a short and long-term retention plan for both Mr. Carlalberto Guglielminotti and Mr. Giuseppe Artizzu, consisting in an increase of the fixed and variable compensation as well as the introducing of a long-term retention plan. Irrespective from the closing with TCC, the proposed total compensation for the CEO is increased by 19% with effect for 1st January 2021, amounting to €378,000. In detail, €235,000 as fixed compensation, €25,000 as benefit, and €118,000 equivalent to the 50% of fixed compensation as variable compensation. Subject to closing with TCC, Mr. Guglielminotti fixed compensation for 2021 is increased to €300,000 and his variable compensation is increased to 100% of his fixed compensation. This proposal was elaborated by the Remuneration and Nomination Committee with the support of independent expert Outbreak Struggles International, who conducted a detailed benchmark analysis of comparable companies in the market. On the medium-long-term component of the CEO compensation, it is important to underline that 2021 is the last vesting year of the stock option plan, dated 21 April 2015, which in 2018 has been converted into a stock appreciation right plan, vesting throughout 2021. Looking at the SARs plan, we have transformed SARs, in essence, the stock option granted in 2015 and that Mr. Guglielminotti should have exercised at the closing in March 2018 upon ENGIE acquisition. However, at that time, Mr. Guglielminotti decided to postpone the exercise of such stock option in the best interest of the company and in order to outline his commitment to the integration of EPS within the ENGIE group. So, this original stock option plan was transformed into SARs. The transformed SARs vested and exercised during 2020 amount to 75,800. The number of transformed SARs that are still to be exercised are now limited to the remaining 75,800. In two tranches in June and December 2021. This is the reason why, in parallel, also a new plan for additional SARs was approved in 2018, with vesting throughout 2021. Such additional SARs were not indexed to the stock price, but rather exclusively to performance under the 2020 strategic plan, launched back in 2017. As a reminder, unfortunately, the original additional plan targets have not been updated to the 2020-25 long-term strategic plan, which, as you may remember, provided for a revised guidance on 2020 and postponed the 100 million guidance to 2022. As of today, 20% of the additional SARs are subject to the performance related to targets that are fully reached, while the remaining 80% of the additional SARs will depend on the assessment of performance target that will be made by the board of directors and or on the timing of closing with TCC that would trigger the acceleration of the vesting schedule in December 2021 and of the assessment of performance targets. With reference to the new long-term incentive, the board of directors approved the proposal of the Remuneration and Nomination Committee exclusively subject to the closing of the transaction with TCC. In detail, the long-term incentive is represented by the retention bonus amounting to €1 million that would be subject to the 3-year cliff vesting and subject to condition of presence only. As a reminder, Mr. Artizzu receives a compensation as board member of the controlled company EPS Italia. The compensation received by Mr. Artizzu in 2020 is detailed as fixed compensation for €130,000 and variable compensation for €35,000, corresponding to the 25% of a fixed compensation. The variable compensation allocated consider 100% of the objectives met. Upon Remuneration and Nomination Committee proposal, the variable remuneration was allocated considering for the 50% on the quantitative objectives directly correlated with the company's performance indicators, acceleration of the conversion of qualified pipeline into backlog, maximize the value of the e-mobility activities, and improvement in targets profitability in storage, and for the 50% on the qualitative objective, based on the definition of the revision of stationary storage commercial plan and establishing product lines planning and control tools. As anticipated, the compensation that Mr. Artizzu will receive in 2021 depends on the closing of the transaction with TCC. Irrespective from the closing of TCC operation, fixed compensation is increased to €180,000 and variable compensation is set to 35% of his fixed compensation. Targets are set at 70% on quantitative targets, revenues, EBITDA, and contract secured, and 30% qualitative targets, talent management, and environmental, social, and corporate governance objectives. Subject to closing with TCC, Mr. Artizzu fixed compensation for 2021 is increased to €200,000. His variable compensation is increased to the 50% of his fixed compensation. On the medium long-term component of the general manager compensation, we refer to the stock option plan allocated in 2015 and in 2016, converted into stock appreciation plan in 2018, and long-term incentive plan. Looking at the SARS plan, we have the transformed SARS related to the plan allocated in 2015 and 2016, which vesting period was extended in the context of ENGIE acquisition occurred in March 2018. And the additional SARS allocated following the transaction partially subject to the performance that, as mentioned before, were settled on the plan released on 2017. Mr. Artizzu vested 54,000 transformed SAR and 15,000 additional SARS in 2020. The transformed SARS vesting in 2021 are 39,800, while additional SARS vesting in 2021 are 27,800. 17.1 of which are subject to the assessment of performance target by the boards of directors and timing of closing with TCC that may cause an acceleration of the vesting and the rights to exercise additional SARS under the good labor conditions. Also for Mr. Artizzu, the board of directors approved a €300,000 retention bonus vesting with condition of presence only, with a 3-year cliff investing and a bullet payment at the 3rd year, subject to closing with TCC. Thank you for your attention. I now leave the floor to our auditors.
Mesdames et messieurs les actionnaires, bonjour. Au nom du Collège des commissaires aux comptes, les cabinets Deloitte et Associés et RBB Business Advisor, j'ai l'honneur de vous rendre compte de notre mission sur les comptes de l'exercice clos le 31 décembre 2020 et de vous présenter les rapports que nous avons établis à votre attention au titre de l'Assemblée générale d'NGEPS qui se tient aujourd'hui. Nos rapports sur les comptes annuels, sur les comptes consolidés et sur les conventions réglementées ont été tenus à votre disposition par la société et sont repris dans le document d'enregistrement universel, à l'exception des rapports spéciaux relatifs aux opérations en capital qui, eux, figurent dans l'avis de convocation. Je vous propose, conformément à l'usage, de vous en résumer les termes. L'objectif fondamental de notre mission est d'obtenir, conformément aux normes d'exercice professionnel, une assurance raisonnable sur la sincérité et la régularité des comptes, ainsi que de vérifier que ceux-ci ne comportent pas d'anomalies significatives. Tout d'abord, en ce qui concerne notre rapport sur les comptes consolidés IFRS du groupe NJEPS, ce rapport se trouve page 241 du document d'enregistrement universel mis à votre disposition. Ces comptes consolidés ont été préparés selon le référentiel IFRS tel qu'adopté par l'Union européenne. En ce qui concerne les points clés de notre audit, les estimations et jugements retenus portent sur la comptabilisation du chiffre d'affaires sur les contrats de services à long terme au forfait et sur la comptabilisation des immobilisations relatives au développement. Notre rapport sur les comptes annuels d'NJEPS figure page 326 du document d'enregistrement universel. Les comptes annuels de votre société ont été préparés selon les règles et principes comptables français. En application des dispositions du Code de commerce relatives aux justifications des appréciations et aux points clés de l'audit, notre rapport fait état des estimations et jugements retenus pour l'évaluation des titres de participation des filiales EPS Manufacturing et NJEPS Italia. Sur ces différents points notamment, nous avons revu les hypothèses et les données sous-jacentes, les calculs effectués par votre société, leur présentation dans les notes annexes au compte et nous nous sommes ainsi assurés du caractère raisonnable de ces estimations. Sur ces bases, nous exprimons une opinion sans réserve et sans observation sur les comptes annuels de votre société et sur les comptes consolidés de votre groupe pour l'exercice clos le 31 décembre 2020. Nous avons par ailleurs procédé aux vérifications spécifiques prévues par la loi et n'avons pas d'observation à formuler sur la sincérité et la concordance entre les comptes annuels et les comptes consolidés avec les informations qui sont contenues dans le rapport de gestion. Enfin, notre rapport sur les conventions réglementées se trouve en page 355 du document d'enregistrement universel. Il présente les caractéristiques et modalités de ces conventions, ainsi que les motifs justifiant l'intérêt pour la société des contrats dont nous avons été avisés ou dont nous avons eu connaissance au cours de nos travaux. Il nous a été donné avis de nouvelles conventions et engagements conclus au cours de l'exercice écoulé qui sont soumis à l'approbation de la présente Assemblée générale. Les différents rapports émis par nos deux cabinets dont je viens de vous faire état sont signés en date du 2 avril 2021. Au nom du Collège des commissaires aux comptes, je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Il est précisé que les actionnaires ont eu la possibilité de remettre des questions écrites préalablement à l'Assemblée dans les conditions légales et réglementaires. Aucune question n'a été remise. Nous passerons donc directement au vote de la résolution.
Mesdames et Messieurs, chers actionnaires, nous allons vous présenter les résultats des votes pour chacune des résolutions. Étant donné que ces résolutions font partie des documents qui vous ont été mis à disposition sur le site internet de la société, nous nous dispenserons de la lecture intégrale de ces dernières. Nous nous limiterons donc au résumé qui sera affiché à l'écran. Nous pouvons passer aux résultats des votes des résolutions. Tout d'abord, les résolutions à titre ordinaire. Première résolution. Approbation des comptes sociaux de l'exercice 2020. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La première résolution est approuvée. Deuxième résolution, approbation des comptes consolidés 2020. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La deuxième résolution est approuvée. Troisième résolution, affectation du résultat de l'exercice 2020. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La troisième résolution est donc approuvée. Quatrième résolution, approbation des conventions réglementées conclues au cours de l'exercice 2020. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 4e résolution est approuvée. 5e résolution, approbation des dépenses et charges spéciaux. La présente résolution a pour objet de constater que la société n'a pas engagé des dépenses ou des charges visées à l'article 39-4 du Code général des impôts au cours de 2020. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 5e résolution est donc approuvée. 6e résolution, fixation des jetons de présence alloués pour l'exercice 2020. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 6e résolution est donc approuvée. 7e résolution, ratification de la démission de M. Massimo Prelso Tramonti. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 7e résolution est approuvée. 8e résolution, ratification de la cooptation de Mme Veronica Vecchi. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 8e résolution est approuvée. 9e résolution, renouvellement du mandat d'administrateur de M. Carlalberto Guglielminotti. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 9e résolution est donc approuvée. 10e résolution, renouvellement du mandat d'administrateur de M. Giuseppe Artizzo. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 10e résolution est approuvée. 11e résolution, renouvellement du mandat d'administrateur de Mme Alice Tanger. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 11e résolution est donc approuvée. 12e résolution, approbation de la politique de rémunération des mandataires sociaux au titre de l'exercice 2021. Les détails sont représentés dans le rapport sur le gouvernement d'entreprise 2020, joint au rapport du Conseil d'administration pour la présente Assemblée générale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 12e résolution est donc approuvée. 13e résolution, approbation de la politique de rémunération du président du conseil d'administration au titre de l'exercice 2021, dont les détails sont présentés dans le document d'enregistrement universel joint au rapport du conseil d'administration pour la présente Assemblée générale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 13e résolution est donc approuvée. 14e résolution, approbation de la politique de rémunération du directeur général au titre de l'exercice 2021. Les détails sont présentés dans le rapport sur le gouvernement d'entreprise 2020, joint au rapport du conseil d'administration pour la présente Assemblée générale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 14e résolution est donc approuvée. 15e résolution, approbation de la politique de rémunération des administrateurs au titre de l'exercice 2021, dont les détails sont présentés dans le rapport sur le gouvernement d'entreprise 2020, joint au rapport du conseil d'administration pour la présente Assemblée générale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 15e résolution est donc approuvée. 16e résolution, approbation de la rémunération totale et des avantages de toute nature versés ou attribués aux mandataires sociaux au titre de l'exercice 2020, dont les détails sont présentés dans le document d'enregistrement universel joint au rapport du conseil d'administration pour la présente Assemblée générale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 6e résolution est approuvée. 17e résolution. Approbation de la rémunération totale et des avantages de toute nature versés ou attribués au directeur général au titre de l'exercice 2020. Les détails sont présentés dans le document d'enregistrement universel joint au rapport du conseil d'administration pour la présente Assemblée générale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 17e résolution est donc approuvée. 18e résolution. Nomination de RBB Business Advisors en tant que commissaire aux comptes titulaire. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 18e résolution est donc approuvée. 19e résolution, autorisation à donner au conseil d'administration en vue de l'achat par la société de ses propres actions. Cette résolution a pour objet d'autoriser le conseil d'administration, pour une période de 18 mois, à opérer sur les actions de la société dans la limite de 10% du capital social dans le cadre des objectifs autorisés. Le prix maximum d'achat par action est fixé à 15 € et le montant global affecté à ces rachats ne pourra dépasser 1 500 000 €. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 19e résolution est donc approuvée. Nous passons maintenant aux résolutions relevantes de la compétence de l'Assemblée générale extraordinaire. 20e résolution. Autorisation à donner au conseil d'administration en vue de la réduction du capital social par voie d'annulation dans le cadre de l'autorisation des rachats de ses propres actions. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 20e résolution est approuvée. 21e résolution. Délégation de compétences au conseil d'administration en vue de l'augmentation du capital social par voie d'émission d'actions ordinaires et ou de valeurs mobiliers donnant accès au capital avec droit de souscription préférentielle. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 21e résolution est donc approuvée. 22e résolution. Délégation de compétences au conseil d'administration en vue de l'augmentation du capital social par l'émission d'actions ordinaires ou des valeurs mobiliers donnant accès au capital avec suppression du droit préférentiel de souscription par offre. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 22e résolution est approuvée. 23e résolution. Délégation de compétences au conseil d'administration en vue de l'augmentation du capital social par émission d'actions ordinaires ou valeurs mobiliers donnant accès au capital sans droit de souscription préférentielle par placement privé. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 23e résolution est approuvée. 24e résolution. Délégation de compétences au conseil d'administration en cas d'émission d'actions ordinaires ou de valeurs mobiliers donnant accès au capital social sans droit de souscription préférentielle en vue de définir les prix des souscriptions, dans la limite de 10% du capital social par année. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 24e résolution est donc approuvée. 25e résolution. Autorisation en vue d'augmenter le nombre de titres à émettre de 15% le nombre de titres d'émission avec ou sans droit de souscription préférentielle. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 25e résolution est donc approuvée. 26e résolution. Délégation des compétences au conseil d'administration en vue d'augmenter le capital social par émission d'actions ordinaires ou de valeurs mobiliers donnant accès au capital social dans la limite de 10% du capital social par année, pour rémunérer les apports en nature versés à la société en dehors d'une offre publique d'échange. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 26e résolution est approuvée. 27e résolution. Délégation des compétences au conseil d'administration en vue d'augmenter le capital social par émission d'actions ordinaires ou de valeurs mobiliers donnant accès au capital social en cas d'offre publique d'échange initiée par la société. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 27e résolution est approuvée. 28e résolution. Délégation des compétences au conseil d'administration en vue d'augmenter le capital social par incorporation des réserves, bénéfices ou primes d'émission, primes de fusion ou d'apport ou toute autre somme dont la capitalisation sera admise. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 28e résolution est approuvée. 29e résolution. Limitation globale des autorisations. Cette résolution a pour objet de limiter les montants d'augmentation du capital à la limite de 1 million d'euros. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 29e résolution est donc approuvée. 30e résolution. Délégation des pouvoirs au conseil d'administration en vue de l'augmentation du capital social réservé aux salariés adhérant au plan d'épargne entreprise avec suppression du droit préférentiel de souscription. 31e résolution, modification de l'article 3, dénomination sociale du statut de la société, en vue de modifier la dénomination de la société. Cette résolution a pour objet de modifier la dénomination sociale de la société afin d'adopter NHOA comme nouvelle dénomination sociale. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 31e résolution est donc approuvée. 32e résolution, pouvoir en vue des formalités. Les résultats s'affichent sur votre écran. La 32e résolution est approuvée.
Mesdames et messieurs, chers actionnaires, l'ordre du jour étant épuisé, je déclare clos les travaux de notre Assemblée générale mixte. Merci de votre présence à distance, de votre fidélité et de votre soutien dans ces circonstances exceptionnelles. Je vous rappelle qu'une réunion investisseurs interactive par webcast avec une session interactive de Q&A aura lieu après cette assemblée. Je vous invite à visiter la page de notre site internet dédié pour obtenir des informations relatives à la connexion et je vous souhaite très bonne fin de journée.